Hello and welcome to this week's review video on the Milan Art Institute Mastery Program Mixed Media part, or at least the first part of that, the first 5 weeks. There will be 5 more weeks after this. And this actually also is the Find Your Voice section, but I'll be talking about that in a separate video because I figured it would be a little bit too long. We made 10 pieces of art in these 5 weeks, and every week we used a new material. So yeah, I'm excited to share it with you. So I'm in my studio right now because here are the 2 first paintings that I did. And this week was all about acrylics, which actually was a medium that we used throughout the whole mixed media section. And with these 2 paintings, it was important to basically do the underpainting and the next step 2 in acrylics. So you basically finished your whole painting in acrylics and then did a layer of oils to finish it off, which was a challenge, and you'll see how I did. For the mixed media section, it was important that we picked our own sources. So up until this point in the oil and drawing section, we could pick from different sources that had been provided to us. So you could pick from about 10 pictures for every piece that you created, whereas right now we had to come up with our own sources, which was a really interesting process. The first one, I started over this painting probably 3 times if I remember correctly, and it was so difficult. I found acrylics really hard to work with, especially for that first painting. I feel like they're very chalky and they dry so fast that I felt like I didn't have time to mix colors properly. They obviously don't blend very beautifully, or at least not the same way that oils do. So it was very difficult for me to get used to that, especially coming out of the oil and drawing section of the mastery program where all we had done was oil painting. And yeah, so what I did was I created this painting and I basically covered the whole thing with oils, like layers and layers and layers of oils to paint away all of the acrylic marks that I'd made because I didn't like the way it looked, which is not supposed to be how we were to handle this painting, but you know, it was the first one. This is how it turned out. I actually quite like the result now, but yeah, the acrylics are pretty much nowhere to be seen anymore. So then the next one was a little bit more successful, but turned out very different than I would normally paint. I used a more sort of impressionistic style and let my brush strokes show, which is not usually how I paint all too much. I really love the blended look of oils, and acrylics just don't work that way. So this is what it turned out to be. I think assignment wise I did better on this one because you can still see a lot of the acrylics, but that did also, for me at least, come with a different style. And yeah, this is how it looks. So for these 2, we had to pick our own sources for the first time, or actually I guess for the final assignment in oils we could pick our own source as well, but from here on out everything, all the sources were picked by me. And that also means that I probably couldn't sell these if I wanted to because I pretty much painted the source the way it was, and it's photography. I mean, legally you could take a photographer's photo and paint it because you changed the medium, but that's not ethical. So yeah, these will not be for sale. I like the result though. I'm quite happy with how they turned out. I don't think I really did the assignment the way it was supposed to, but yeah. The next 2 paintings I did were these 2, and the material that we had to use this week was inks. And so I did the owl first. I did not tape off the edges, which I kind of regret a little bit now, although I think it suits the subject in this one. After the inks, we again had to cover our work with acrylics, and that will be the case for all of these. So with this one, I went in with the inks. I put some sort of base layer, like a transparent layer over the whole painting afterwards, and then started with the acrylics and eventually the oils. I don't know if this is a particularly successful painting, but it was a good start in inks. I did enjoy them. I don't know if I'll continue using them because, especially in the next painting, I kind of used them as watercolors for the background, so I didn't put any inks on the surfboards, but I used them for the sand. And again, I don't mind the look. I quite like the flowiness of the medium, but yeah, not my favorite either. Although I do think that this painting turned out pretty okay. I really love the contrast in this piece, and I really like the first surfboard, the blue one. I think that one turned out really well. I can kind of tell how much attention I put into this piece, especially in the foreground, and how I put a little less attention into the background. I think for most of these pieces, you'll see that I put more attention into one of the pieces rather than both, because they're quite big and it was a challenge to finish 2 of these pieces every week. But yeah, all in all, I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. The next 2 that you're seeing right here were mark making, and I had a hard time doing this. You'll see me start the bottom painting with a bunch of rainbow colors. I didn't mind the way it looked, but it wasn't very much like me, and I actually kind of consider this piece a breakthrough piece because I felt like I was experimenting with all these different things and it just wasn't really my style, and I ended up painting it all out and being quite happy and proud of this painting. I think the most important thing I learned during this whole mixed media journey of these past 5 weeks was that it is so important to listen to your intuition and to really understand what you're drawn to and go with that. And that is not to say that you shouldn't push yourself and try new things, but at the end of the day, it is meant to help you find your voice and your style, and it should be close to your heart. It shouldn't be so far out of your comfort zone that every painting you create is just one big frustration. And I kind of learned that the hard way. It really took me a good while into this journey to realize that I really like realism and I love neutral colors, and that's totally okay, and it is okay to stick with that. I know it has very neutral colors, especially after the rainbow that it was, but I think that's where I am most comfortable, and yeah, pretty happy with that one. That being said, you'll see a whole bunch more rainbow paintings because it took a lot of different paintings for me to figure this out. So yeah, especially the next mark making piece is very rainbow, and I did actually enjoy the process too. So you'll see me experimenting a bunch, and eventually I kind of come back to realism, and yeah, I'm very happy with that. I did another mark making piece, which I made a lot more colorful. I again tried to experiment as much as I could in this whole section. So during these 5 weeks, I used so many bright colors and different mediums to figure out what I like and what I like the look of and what really suits my personality. So yeah, I decided for my second piece to paint some wildflowers, someone holding some wildflowers. I picked 2 sources for this one, and I combined those sources together, which I quite like. I obviously made up the background, which was a pretty fun process. I usually really love realism, but I actually had a lot of fun creating this. I tried to be a little bit more loose with my mark making. I find it very difficult to be loose. I really like everything to be structured, and I struggled just kind of scribbling and doing all the things. So I think my paintings are a little bit more controlled, and I actually like that. I've noticed that that is a recurring theme, and I'm totally okay with that. So yeah, this is the result of that one. Then it was time for spray paint, and I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of terrified. I started with the abstract up top there, and I don't mind it. I think the colors are quite nice. I didn't really know what I was doing. I did use some mark making on top at the end there, and I do think that made the painting. I think without it, it would have been not that great. Not that it's a great painting now, but I think it made it a lot better and made it work. I don't think spray paint will be a medium I use a lot. Maybe for backgrounds, foregrounds, not so much, but yeah, I enjoyed playing with it. I think out of all of the materials, it was really fun to do. I just, for my work, don't think I'll gravitate towards that particular material. So after that, I made this little bee painting. I combined some different sources from the internet, and I don't think it is a very successful piece, but you know, I experimented with some bright colors, with translucent subject matter, like painting the wings and still being able to see the background. So I did enjoy making it. It was probably quicker than all of the other ones. The abstract that I made in spray paint also was a lot quicker than the rest. And I did actually enjoy that part of it. I have a tendency to work for a really long time on all of my paintings because I love realism, and it was nice to be done quickly and have a fun, different result, but I don't think it really is my voice or style to paint in this way. And lastly, we had Collage, which was really interesting. These are the two paintings that I made. I definitely feel like the top one is a lot more of a successful painting than the bottom one. I started off with the top one, so we had to use collage paper in any way that we wanted. We could paint over it if we wanted to. I used an interesting color palette, I thought, and I think it worked out really well. I'm actually very happy with this painting. I think out of my mixed media ones, this is definitely one of my favorites. That being said, I'm not sure if this is really my voice. I enjoyed working with the collage materials, but I'm not quite sure if I'll continue using them. And as far as the actual composition and source goes, I thought it was a beautiful source. It's actually on my aesthetic board. I think the image is really powerful, but I generally go for more understated themes in my art, and so I'm not sure if this is the subject matter that I'll go for. And with subject matter, I mean someone looking directly at you. It's almost kind of confrontational, and that's not really me. So I'll probably paint different sorts of subject matter from here on out. But it's really interesting to experiment with that. I think the process of this one also went really well, which was the first time where I think I used the acrylics in a way that actually helped me before the oil layer, whereas before I was constantly working on painting out all of the acrylic marks that I had made. And so yeah, I'm pretty happy with this piece. I find portraits extremely difficult, but also very rewarding when it works out and when something turns out nice. So yeah, that's that one. And then I did this one. I really like books, and so I thought it would be an interesting subject matter, but looking back, I don't know if I did a very good job. I have to admit that I kind of gave up on this painting at some point. So I used collage paper on the background and the foreground, and I painted in the books with acrylics and oils like I did with all of the other ones as well. So generally speaking, with all of these pieces, I started off with the mixed media material that we were trying out that week, then covered it with acrylics, and then finished it with oils. And I've noticed that I just really gravitate towards oil paint and have a tendency to put more layers of oils on all of these paintings. And I'm okay with that. So we're trying to figure out our style and our voice, and I think I'm getting a lot closer to that. All in all, we made so many paintings in these past few weeks, and I am pretty proud of them. I don't think they're all necessarily in my style or voice, and I don't know if they have anything recognizable to each other so that you could see that they were mine, but it was really interesting to experiment with all of these mediums. I didn't always like it. I find change to be kind of difficult, and just trying a material once or twice often is not enough for me to determine whether I like it, but I mean, there are definitely materials in here that I will use again in future paintings, so it's been really inspiring to try all of this, and I'm excited for the next part. I forgot to mention that all of the mixed media pieces, other than the first two, were made on paper. I used watercolor paper, and they are size 22 by 30, so pretty big. My previous pieces on canvas were all 16 by 20, and I did decide to do this like mixed media section, the first two canvases, in a size 18 by 24 so that they were a little bit bigger. But yeah, so those were all of the paintings I made in these last 5 weeks, and actually this whole section is not just about painting but also about finding your voice, and there was a whole sort of digital part of the program and sort of self-discovery part of the program that I didn't talk about in this video because I'm thinking of putting it in a separate video. There is so much information on finding your voice and your style, and this program that I'm taking has just been really life-changing, and it's so interesting to learn all of these new things about yourself and figure out why you find certain images attractive, or why you gravitate towards a certain material, or why you want to paint in a certain way or have a certain workflow. And I would love to dive deeper into that, and also how, you know, this whole experimentation part of the program has really helped in coming a little bit closer to finding your voice and your style. And by no means am I there yet. Actually, when I look at all of these paintings together, I don't even know if you would see them all, if someone would be able to pick out that I'm the person who painted all of them, or if it would look like 10 different people painted all of these paintings, because I experimented so much with all of these different materials, different colors, different subject matter, and yeah. But then again, this part of the program is exactly for that, to experiment with new things and try and see what you like, and also just paint a lot. I think I've just learned a lot of new techniques and ways I like to paint just from painting 2 paintings every week. So yeah, I'm really excited for that to come out and for you to hear a little bit about that if you're interested. It will hopefully be out next week, or maybe I might even try to get it out on Wednesday. I'm not quite sure. These videos take a really long time to film. I know you're only seeing like 10 to 20 minutes of it, but it's a lot of work. So it will be out really soon. I'll make sure of that. I'm really excited for you to hear it all. And yeah, I also wanted to give you a few updates on the program because they've changed a lot of stuff around lately, and a big update is that they no longer do the affiliate program. They're shifting to a new format for their website and an app and all of that, and they say that that's the reason why they stopped doing the affiliate program. So I'm not really sure. I just wanted to let you know so that, you know, the link that was in some of my videos is no longer there. I do really want to say thank you if you did use my link, or if you considered using my link, because it has really helped me out with paying for the program. It was, you know, I got, I think, $40 per person that signed up through the link, and for as long as they're in the program every month, which is a really big chunk of money, or at least, you know, for an art student maybe. And yeah, I'm really grateful for that. I also just really appreciate everyone that's watching and commenting and interacting with these videos. It's been so fun and so special, and yeah, really grateful. So thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and I hope to see you next week. Bye. This chair is so squeaky. I'm sorry about that.